Hello, this is Christine Binger with my EDL 853 Module 8 case study video. The case study is titled Get This Child Out of My Room. Miss Green is a new teacher. She teaches SPED at Fulton School District, and she's approached by Miss Taylor, a veteran teacher and a teacher who is considered good at her job, and was asked to remove a student, Carl, from her room because of his aggressive behavior towards her. Carl's having issues at home because his parents are getting divorced, and he is classified as with a behavior disorder, which is why he's receiving SPED services. And Ms. Taylor feels it is in the best interest of herself and her other students that Carl be removed from the classroom, and Ms. Green is going to have to deal with this. So what I know as the building leader from this case study, Carl's having issues at home. His parents are getting divorced, and they are aggressive towards each other, as noted in an IEP meeting. He also has older siblings that are having issues at school. I also know that he was initially aggressive just towards himself, and now he's taking his aggression out on Ms. Taylor, and the fear is that he will eventually take it out on his fellow students. Carl is diagnosed with a behavior disorder, which is why he is receiving SPED services, and there is proper protocol in place for dealing with an issue like this and making changes for Carl so that he's successful in the classroom. And the last thing that I know is Ms. Taylor unfortunately wants Carl removed from her classroom because of his choices, and she seems unwilling to attempt new strategies at this point in time. I need to know what the current modifications and accommodations are for Carl per his IEP, as well as any accommodations or modifications that they've previously tried or tried in light of these the IEP that's in place. Ms. Taylor needs to be following the IEP, so I need to follow up with documentation of what she has tried, how it has turned out, and things of that nature. As well as, are there any other individuals that Carl responds positively to or negatively to that can corroborate what Ms. Taylor is saying? Carl is a very unique situation because he is perfectly academically capable. It's just his behavior is preventing him from being the best student he can be. So what's the problem specifically? The problem is that Carl is becoming much more aggressive as the year progresses, and with it only being 6 weeks into school, this is a major concern. He's channeling his anger inappropriately, and Ms. Taylor's very concerned about herself and her students and wants him removed from her class. My proposed plan of action requires a lot of collaboration, reflection, and implementing new strategies. The first thing that I would do is meet with Miss Green, Miss Taylor, and Carl respectively to assess each of their perspectives on the situation that's taking place and maybe get some more insight on everyone's point of view. I would review Carl's IEP and documentation of his behaviors currently as well as in previous years and kind of see where things have worked and things have not worked as a starting point for what to try with Carl. The third thing I would do is discuss Carl's documentation and IEP with Miss Green and Miss Taylor and decide new interventions to implement with Carl. There's no reason that Carl should be immediately removed from the classroom. He, per the SPED program, he is required to have a fair education, and just removing him from a class is not fair. Also, his disability is behavior, so he is not, it's not that he's academically incapable, so he should be in the best learning environment for him, which would be the general education classroom with his teacher, Miss Taylor. I would then schedule regular meetings to follow up weeks or months out to discuss the interventions that were selected and see how they are working or are not working, what changes need to be made. I would observe Carl regularly on my own to see how he's doing, maybe discuss with Carl regularly as well how his classes are going and how he's feeling just emotionally at home, at school, and all of that. At that point, if no interventions are working, I would return to step 2 and re-meet with Miss Taylor and Miss Green and discuss what new things we can try, because again, Carl should not be removed from the classroom. This is his best learning environment. I would schedule, but if the interventions we find are working, then I would schedule a new IEP meeting to make these changes with Carl's parents and discuss maybe carrying these through at home and how they're working at school, and hopefully they can work at home, and hopefully the parents would be on board. What they're going through is unique, so hopefully they can put that aside for their student. And the last thing is document his Carl's behavior moving forward. What works, what doesn't work, what needs to be changed year to year, month to month, and just see how Carl's doing and provide the best education for him in that regard. Resolve the issue based on promoting the success of all students. First, focusing on what is best for Carl. Carl deserves to learn in his best learning environment, which would be in Miss Taylor's classroom, because he is behaviorally has a behavior disorder, not an intellectual disorder. However, it is concerning that he is reacting this way, which is impeding his ability to learning. So I would find somebody who can support Carl and somebody that he likes. I believe this should be one of his interventions, that he be taught that when he's feeling aggressive or upset, he should find a way to leave the classroom, whether that be, can I go do this, or the teacher send them out to run an errand or do something to interact with the teacher that they get along with most, and hopefully find ways that to reteach Carl how to cope with his anger and his aggression, and find a way to help him sort through what's happening at home and how he's feeling inside. So what's best for Carl is to stay, but we need to teach him coping skills for the behaviors that we are seeing in him, because those are not safe for him or for anybody else. And the next step is what is best for all students. While Miss Taylor's concern for her students is valid, there's no indication yet that he's going to take it out on his peers. He seems most upset with adults at this point. There hasn't been any indication that he and his sisters or siblings are not getting along. So I think it's important for Carl to learn to interact with his peers, and once he can handle his aggression and channel it correctly, then he would be successful with his peers, and I think it's important for them to all work together. So I see no need for him to be removed from his peers, but learn how to interact with people much better. To debrief the problem, what I was thinking in this situation is, what is causing Carl's aggression specifically? It seems that he's most upset with adults, rightfully so, considering what he's seeing at home. So how is that translating to school? What is Miss Taylor doing? What is she representing to him? Why is Miss Taylor not willing to work with Carl? Only being 6 weeks in is a little surprising that a teacher is this upset with a student and unwilling to work with him. And lastly, are Miss Taylor and other teachers aware of special education laws and regulations that are in place? And if they are not, and even if they are, readdressing these through professional development is incredibly important, because this kind of response should not be happening in school. I was feeling frustrated with Miss Taylor at first, being so adamant about Carl wanting to be removed. I understand that students can be very difficult, but to essentially quit that easily is alarming to me, so I was very frustrated with her. The next thing I felt was poor Carl. He's seeing his parents react at home to each other after being newly divorced, and seeing a glimpse of that in the IEP is something that, if they do that in public, what are they doing behind closed doors? So I felt bad for Carl, and that this is what he's doing. And the next thing I felt is just confusion, because Carl, I feel, wants to do well. He's coming every day, but he just doesn't know how to cope with himself. So I felt this sense of like, what can I do to help Carl? And then valuing the integrity of the SPED program. I don't want teachers to think that they can just take a student that they are not getting along with and have them removed because of their disability. That's not fair. So I felt a desire to value our SPED program and readdress the needs within that. I also was valuing the quality of teaching regardless of ability level. We should be teaching to all students. And Miss Taylor not willing to do that was concerning, and it makes me concerned for how other teachers are valuing the education in our building. And I also valued collaboration amongst staff members, especially with Miss Green being new to the school. I think that it's really important for her and Miss Taylor to find ways to work together, because this would create a great learning environment moving forward in the years to come with Miss Green. And she would be able to learn, especially as a first year, how to handle tough situations like this one. Unresolved issues or things that are open for further investigation. Things that are open are we going to be able to reach Carl and support him in improving his aggression? We can try everything in the world. At the end of the day, this is something that Carl needs to be cognizant of. And while he's only in 3rd grade, this is something we can start teaching now, and hopefully he's much better by high school. Next is, will Miss Taylor remain open to helping Carl? She already seems closed and unwilling, but hopefully with collaboration and discussion and teamwork, we can find a way to make her feel more comfortable with Carl and help him be successful. And the last thing is, how will Carl's parents support him at home? Oftentimes, when one thing works at home, it needs to be carried on through school, and if something's working at school, it needs to be carried on at home. So finding a way to work together, and will they be willing to do this, especially in 2 different households? So you're working with the triangle of placement here. Next, my reflection on Standard 2. How did you as an education leader promote the academic success of every student through instructional capacity? I did this by reviewing IEPs and modifications to continue supporting the student Carl, implementing interventions, as well as supporting collaboration. This increases instructional capacity, because we have to have all of these elements to work together to be successful, especially for Carl in particular. he's struggling with things differently than other students are, so we need that trifecta to come together so that instructionally he can gain as much academic information and be a great student that we know he can be. How did you as an educational leader promote the personal well-being of every student? While I do not think it is important to remove Carl from the classroom, it is important to be aware of what's working and how Carl's responding to different situations. So as a result, creating a collaboration, finding a person that Carl can work with who he likes, and working with Ms. Taylor to accept Carl creates a great structure for the student's well-being, because other students will see Carl and befriend Carl if Ms. Taylor's befriending Carl. However, if Ms. Taylor's ostracizing him, then the students will not be open-armed to him. As well as another teacher. If another teacher is willing to work with Carl and get on the same page as everybody, that's going to be much more successful for everybody in the long run. And lastly, how did I enhance instructional capacity? By creating interventions and educating everybody. This is important for the success of the entire school. As well as collaborating and working together, because if something works for one teacher, no one's going to know about it unless we discuss it. And the last thing is modeling the expectation, how we handle the SPED laws, how we handle interacting with students who have special needs, and how we can all come together to be successful in this. I feel that with this process, this is just a stepping stone in what can happen with Carl. I feel like obviously as you try interventions and try things, and as Carl gets older, because he's only in 3rd grade, things will work and things will not work, but we have to come together as a team to make that happen. That is the case study on Carl. Thank you for listening.